Welcome back to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics, a production of America's Talking Network. You can subscribe to all of our podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording this episode on Monday, March 4th, and joining me as always, my friend and partner, Dr. Orphe Divounguy. Dr. O, interesting story from Bloomberg, with some, what amounts to be some, backdated data. The UK and Japan fell into a full-on recession at the end of 2023. This news is not necessarily surprising, but the fact that it's been confirmed, I think, is relevant. So, what's going on globally, number one, and number two, what should our concern be here in the United States?
Globally, we have two major ongoing wars. We have geopolitical tensions. We have basically at a time where we had record high inflation and major central banks around the world were basically trying to get inflation under control. And so all of that turmoil is turning into a major slowdown. And so the global economy slowed down. Everywhere, by the way, slowing down everywhere, especially in the major economies. And then now both Japan and the United Kingdom, weakened, contracted, in fact, in the first 3 months of 2023. And so for the second quarter, and so, potentially have gone into, recession territory.
So what does it mean for us here in the United States? I mean, we're all in, the economy is global and we are all interconnected. What do you expect here in the U.S.? I mean, once upon a time, there was a sort of a quote unquote technical recession that was pencil whipped away. There are a lot of Americans who speculate that we are already in a recession. That's talk that you hear from, people that, that have a little bit of wherewithal, and also a lot of people who are, I don't know, you might call them, the doom prophets. But I mean, what's your take on what's going on in the United States? Where do we stand?
Yeah, look, the consumer, the U.S. consumer has kind of carried the U.S. economy. But the big question is whether or not they're going to be to continue to do so in the face of, inflation. While inflation continues to come down, inflation is still somewhat above the Fed's target. And the Fed, has kept interest rates, somewhat elevated.
Yes.
Right. And really
no cuts. There's been no cut yet. There was telegraphed that we were going to get it at least two this calendar year. And so far we haven't seen either of those. And the buzz is that we're not necessarily, the Fed's going to be meeting soon. Not necessarily anticipating a cut coming now. That's right.
And so you also have the fact you have debt servicing costs have increased substantially. And so even if the labor market remains somewhat steady, and incomes continue to increase, it is likely that consumers will have to use some of that income to service their growing debt. And that means a slowdown in consumption and consumer spending. And the slowdown in consumer spending, which makes up the largest share of the U.S. economy, means that the U.S. economy could be slowing ahead, which is why, in fact, I think inflation will likely continue to ease, and the Fed will be eventually forced to cut interest rates, to recalibrate and cut interest rates. Does that mean we're heading for a recession? No, probably not. But does it mean more slowing is coming? Yes, for sure. I believe that's happening, and that's likely to happen. You also have businesses, which, by the way, remember I said the labor market's been supporting consumers, but you have businesses that may have to refinance their debt, no debt and much higher rates.
Yes.
Right? And that's going to cause some pain. And of course, that means the labor market, less investments and less hiring. So the hiring will continue to slow, and the labor market could cool further. Look, continued claims have continued to increase as of late. So, the labor market is likely to continue to slow for the rest of the year. You also have the fact that there's elections going on around the world this year. And these elections tend to bring about a ton of policy uncertainty. And that policy uncertainty tends to slow down investment and hiring. Because, when people are uncertain about what type of tax policy they're going to be facing, they tend to sit on their wallets, right? Yes. We hear things like former President Donald Trump referring to 10% tariffs across the board. Things like that are scary for business. Things like that are bad for business. And so that could cause people to sit back on their wallets and not invest as much, right? Maybe save a lot more. And of course, that means less household expenditures, less business investment, less income, less consumption, and all of that slows down the U.S. economy. So where do I see the economy going? I expect a slowdown. I'm not necessarily in recession camp yet because, in fact, we've had strong economic data as of late. Look, core PCE inflation was running below the Fed's target before the January number, right?
That's right.
3-month core PCE was something like 1.5%. 6-month core PCE was something like 1.8%. I may have those in reverse. And so, if the uptick, may actually be somewhat positive in the sense that we're not seeing a crash. We're seeing a gradual slowdown, in the consumer's ability to spend.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts as always. For Dr. Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other high-quality podcasts at americastalking.com.